No matter where you go, there are organized crimes, gangs, or mafias of some sort that exist in the area. These organized crime groups would do anything illegal to gain profit for themselves and would even terrorize the citizens that live around the area. Even the safest countries have these groups. Japan, which is considered to be one of the most safest countries to live or visit, have crime groups. The most well-known organized crime group in Japan is the Yakuza, which is the biggest and long-lasting group there is in Japan. The Yakuza was formed almost 4 centuries ago, around the beginning of the 17th century. The meaning behind Yakuza is good for nothing, which is believed to be named after a bad number total from a card game. The formation of the Yakuza is unknown, but is believed to have been formed from samurais that were masterless and became rebellious and called ronins. These ronins would become organized crime groups, which were called Borukudan, meaning violent groups. Within the Borukudan, 2 groups were formed, the Tekiya and the Bakuto. The Tekiya were peddlers who sold goods at festivals while traveling to various villages. They soon created groups and within those groups established leaders and bosses. They would engage in turf wars and protection rackets to whoever paid them. The second group is the Bakuto. This group was known for gambling and later on to loan sharking as well as other activities. These 2 groups are considered to be the precursors to the Yakuza. By the time the Yakuza was formed, Japanese officials started recognizing them due to the way they presented themselves with their hair and clothing as well as the way they behaved. The Bakuto were known for having tattoos that were later carried into the Yakuza, which changed from having colorful tattoos to having large body tattoos. These tattoos were meant as a way to identify criminals and as a way to distinguish from each other. The types of tattoos they had represented different meanings based on what the individual's character is. One example would be a crop tattoo, which represented courage. Within the Yakuza, a hierarchy was implemented, such as having a boss or leader known as the Oyabun, and underneath them are the Kobun, which are the followers or underlings. To get into these groups, Kobuns had to partake in a blood oath to show their obedience and loyalty. Those who disobeyed or went against the oath would have to participate in a ritual if they want to be forgiven. This ritual involved cutting their pinky finger with their sword and then showing or presenting that finger to their leader. The Kobuns would do anything to protect their leader, even to the point of serving time in jail for them. This relationship between the Oyabun and the Kobun has been considered to be a chivalrous organization. The main crimes that the Yakuza focused on were economy-based. The Yakuza began doing protection rackets, which they would demand money from people and businesses for protection. But if they failed to pay, the Yakuza would then damage the property or to the people. Many people came to them for protection since at the time the Japanese government was weak and the Yakuza had become more powerful than the government. These crimes would later evolve into money laundering, where they would get involved in brothels and businesses they were involved with. They would also involve in sex trafficking as well, by kidnapping women from Southeast Asia and smuggling in drugs and guns.
After World War II, the Yakuza began to become more practical with how they ran things. Getting into business, they became salesmen, casino owners, loan sharks. They did this while simultaneously committing criminal acts such as sex trafficking, drug trade, weapon smuggling, and extortion. They continued to keep their origins of a tradition-based group, with anyone breaking these traditions would be punished or put to death. They would become more akin to their counterpart, the Mexican cartel. In this decade of the 1980s, the Yakuza were at their peak in terms of membership and influence in the general public. Fear of the Yakuza was at an all-time high. They controlled the Japanese government from the shadows, influencing the politics that allowed them to continue their criminal activities without interruption from authorities. In the late 1980s marked the end of the Yamaichi War, a gang war that involved two of the biggest Yakuza groups at the time, and the Japanese police. The bloody 5-year conflict left 40 dead and millions of yen worth of weapons lost or destroyed. This event reshaped the police force, finally allowing laws condemning the acts of the Yakuza. Many groups disbanded, with only a few remaining by early 2000s. Even though they tried to live normal lives and get regular jobs, the Japanese government made it almost impossible for documented Yakuza members to buy insurance, cell phones, or get any sort of government job. While the Mafia and cartel dwindled in numbers, they are still considered more powerful than the Yakuza to this day. In the modern day, they are considered nothing more than a minor threat. The Yakuza by the early 2000s faded into obscurity. Until 2005, Sega Entertainment released the first Yakuza game, or as it's known in America, The Way of the Dragon. This sparked a brand new interest in the Yakuza culture and history. The Yakuza series led the way for many other media such as movies, manga, and history to take the world by storm. The comic Sakamoto Days being the most popular manga series today about a former Yakuza who fights to protect his family from other Yakuza looking to kill him. By 2010s, Yakuza culture has been fantasized and glamorized by the general public as they were seen as gallant mercenaries with amazing fighting capabilities and an interesting culture. When the Yakuza fell, a new group arose known as the Hungure, formed by former Yakuza bosses and newly recruited allies. Though they posed a minor threat, a splinter group arose in 2024 known as the Tokuryu, meaning anonymous flow in English. This group was led by a gang of unknown thugs who hired outside civilians to complete tasks with the promises of money and moving up the ladder without the low-ranking grunt work that the Yakuza forced newbies into. The masterminds behind each operation would provide the number of different jobs: espionage, robbery, murder, and trafficking. All of these for different prices and bounties. The most famous incident of the Tokuryu activities was the Nasa Takarajima murders, where the bodies of 2 local restaurant owners were found. No suspect has been identified, and the case is still under investigation to this day.